So I am here with Lori Peters with Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for being here, Lori.
Good morning, Shae. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks for having us.
absolutely, absolutely. So right now is probably a pretty busy time for you guys at Habitat for Humanity, right?
Yes, we have different periods of different kinds of busyness through the year. 2021 was busy the entire year. There was no downtime, but I think we'll be back to normal here for 2022. And so every period of the year is just a different type and a different kind of busy, depending on where we're at in our cycle of habitat.
Yes. So you guys are actually doing cookie kits. A lot of us here at kwElite purchased a lot of your cookie kits. So tell us a little bit about that and how you guys raise funds for it and who kind of puts those kits together. Because I've had a lot of people who are really impressed with them.
Well, that's great to hear. So the cookie kits are the brainchild of our high school committee.
Oh, that's right.
The campus committee was started about 2 years ago. We had a young man, Simon Jansen, who loved to volunteer for us. Unfortunately, with Habitat, your age kind of limits what you can do under only because of liability insurance, not because of the kids or anything like that. You know, we just all had to follow those rules of safety. And he said he approached me, and I'm like, no, this is just life. This is just it. Deal with it. And he approached me again, and he's like, what? And he would bring me ideas. And finally, how can you not work with someone who's so motivated to help someone else? And so Simon went and gathered a team of other high school students, and they were all students who had volunteered with Habitat and agreed with him. Either they wanted to do more of the Habitat home building construction type things, or they had witnessed the change in maybe another student's life who got a Habitat house, or they all came for different reasons. And we started out with this core group of about 8 kids who just wanted to do more. And I wanted to be that person in the community that encouraged them to reach more in their life, because adults spoke into my life all the time as a child. And it wasn't necessarily my parents or my aunts and uncles. Of course, they all did too. But I think as a community, if we want our community to be better, we have to do our part too. And so with their initiative, we just had to find a way to make it work. And I gave Simon this book of, hundreds of pages of rules, and I'm like, figure it out. And that kid did.
He did.
He went through it and he figured it out, and all the kids together worked on how this would happen and what they would do. And so their main goal is when Habitat's program is a Christian housing organization, a ministry, and their main job is to build a house and sell it to someone who wouldn't be able to afford a house through normal or traditional means, that you would sell to them. But that's where we stop. That's where Habitat for Humanity stops. And Simon and the kids, I would talk to them about, what it's like. And they found they had their aha moment when they're like, oh, because these people who have a Habitat house often come without the things they need for a traditional American lifestyle. I know that in the 6 houses I've been part of building, one of the families had to leave everything behind, everything that they own, just because of circumstances with cleanliness and bugs, and they didn't want to bring anything into that new house. And the Habitat kids saw it as a way that they could help. So their first year, they built a bunk bed for a family who didn't have, because they're a 3-bedroom house and they had 3 kids. So 2 of the boys were going to have to share a bedroom. So they needed a bunk bed. The rooms just aren't that big.
Yeah.
And Simon and the kids talked to a couple different shop teachers at school, and they came up with a plan, and they raised the money, and they built a bunk bed for the family. And they saw how happy that family was, and how those boys that they go to school with every day were just ecstatic. And then that same family, their church gave them brand new mattresses to go in this bunk bed. So basically, they provided for that family. And they've done another family, they they had beds, but they bought them all new bedding. They were young kids, and they bought them, I don't know, like Paw Patrol, something cute and fun that their family funds don't allow for.
Yeah.
They bought them books and bookcases, and then this year, their third house that they worked on, they was a young man who is probably going to be wheelchair bound 100%. Right now he uses a wheelchair like in school and stuff because of a handicap. And they made a bed and a desk that his wheelchair can, access.
Yeah.
So just very special that they care and they love, and they raise the funds to do it. They are completely independent. Habitat can't sponsor their building. So these guys have to get together and they go to another student's house. I probably shouldn't call them children.
Yeah.
They're all old high school. They'll forgive me. But they go to another person's, either a shop class does it, or they do it in somebody's garage or whatever, because they can't do it through Habitat. It is an independent project. And but anyway, long story short, that's the cookie kit. So this cookie kit idea was something they brought up 2 years ago, and they organized it. And my goal is really for them to work through everything themselves. And I listen, I watch them work, process the problems together. And occasionally I'm like, okay, have you thought about this? Or that's not going to work, or whatever. But my goal is really for them, they're top of their class. They're the leaders in their schools. I want them to be little adults and do it all themselves. That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it gives them the creativity to be able to think outside the box and not set those limitations. So obviously he was very adamant in coming to you. And I think it is part of our job as a community to open up those opportunities even for young adults.
Right.
And not sticking the limitations on them. Because the more we tell them that they can't do something, their mind just starts shutting down. Their imagination doesn't keep going.
Right.
So as long as you can kind of play into that and help motivate them and give them the opportunities, they're just going to take off and thrive.
And don't we all have to do that as adults? I mean, we all have a framework of rules, laws, whatever, that we have to work within for the good of society. And so what a lesson that they've learned early on.
Well, and I love how, you gave them the book, and this is what they can do, and this is what they can't do, and they found the gray area.
Right? Yes, because I had no time to go through all those pages. Yeah.
And I love that, because there's always, it's not, can we do this? It's how can we do this?
Right?
And it's never black and white. You have that gray area in every aspect of life. It doesn't matter if somebody tells you can't do it. You can. You just got to find a way around it to still legally
do it the right way.
Yeah. Yes, correct. So that's absolutely inspiring. So now, can any high school student be part of that program?
Right. So how they have it set up right now is we have what we call leadership team. And these are the kids. There's they started with about 6 to 8, and, a couple have graduated already, and now they're up to 10. And it's very important. And this was board directed that all 4 area high schools, so SCOTUS, Lakeview, Columbus Public, and Nebraska Christian, are all represented. All of their school boards and principals had to be on board. And we try to make sure we have representatives on the leadership team of that smaller group, that core group from all the high schools. And they are really, they're the driving force. They're the decision makers. They decide, they evaluate the new homeowner, decide what they need. They talk to the homeowner and ask how they can help their life be better. So, and then when they have the decisions made, then they reach out to all the high schools. So when we were making those cookie kits, they rolled out they mixed and rolled out and baked the cookies in November. And there were 100 kids from all 4 high schools doing, different roles, different time frames through the whole thing.
So they kind of got like a system all set out and planned. How many did you guys sell this year? Because I know I bought a lot.
Yeah. So, funny story, and I don't know if I should admit this to the public.
I want to hear it.
All right. Okay. Well, in that weekend in November, they made about 4,500 cookies.
Oh my gosh.
And that was way up from last year because of, we had a large purchase from kwElite. The teammates from both Butler County and Columbus came on board, which I think was a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Supporting nonprofits and programs, and it gave the mentees and mentors something to do. They're going to decorate them together. But But anyway, they originally wanted to make 6,000. And Nicholas Zuha is on our leadership committee, and his mom is Elaine Zuha. She's a nutritionist with Easy Nutrition Consulting,
Okay.
and she's like, we can't do 6,000 kids, so we can't. So they settled on 4,500. We made them. Elaine taught them how to box them, and we froze them up at Drennan Feedlots. Donated their large farm freezer for the
Oh my
cookies. They were in
gosh.
boxes, and when we went to pack them last Friday, there was about 800, 1,000 cookies missing. We have no idea what happened to these cookies. And the kids, when they counted them, they double checked. Then they triple checked. And I would send different kids I'm like, all right, go add these up one more time. We've got to be right. And all the numbers are there. We still have the notes. I'm like, where are these cookies? So somewhere, someone's going to find a box of sugar cookies or two. Actually, probably like 2 or 3 boxes of sugar cookies. And they're probably ornaments, the shape of an ornament. So, but it was a great thing. I mean, not that we lost the cookies, but lost cookies.
That's funny. They just got up and walked away.
I know, right? Anyway, but so here we are Friday night, ready to pack the cookie kits for delivery on Saturday and Sunday, and we don't have enough. You know, the frosting is all laid out, the sprinkles are all laid out. They've got this great assembly line process going, and we're out of cookies. But I gathered the leadership team around, and I'm like, all right, what are we going to do? Solve this problem. And, you know, they threw things out like, well, because we didn't have enough for like 2 big groups that we had promised to. We had enough for all the individual orders. And what are you going to do? Are you going to call them and tell them we can't, you know, you ordered these, but we can't do it?
Yeah.
And they decided that, no, they're going to make more. So that instead of doing it with all the volunteers, that we just weren't set up and lined up for that. Everybody went home and made 4 or 5 batches of the dough at home.
Yeah.
And then they brought it in Sunday as people picked up their cookie kits. They made another, I don't know what the number is, like another 1,000 cookies. And but it's all right. Look at that problem solving they went through, and they figured it out, and
they failed forward. And that is the perfect thing to happen to anybody, is you fail forward, you figure it out, because you're always going to have obstacles. You're always going to have something that comes up into your way. So if you can think outside the box and figure out a way to still make it happen, it's considered failing forward, and it's the best way to learn from any experience.
And they thrived. They did wonderful. Everything was delivered on time, and
yes, that's awesome. That is amazing. Okay, so let's go back to basically Habitat for Humanity in general. Well, I guess if a high schooler was interested in getting a part or being a part of that, what would they need to do, or who would they contact?
They would contact their representatives at their school.
Oh, okay.
And you know, those have been in the newspaper. Those have been on the Verley. They have been on. They have a Facebook page, the Habitat for Humanity of Columbus Campus Committee.
Okay.
They can email the Habitat. You know, email our Columbus Habitat email, anything. We'll connect them.
Okay, perfect. So then tell us a little bit about Habitat for Humanity for those who maybe don't know anything about it. How are they funded? And then how do people qualify? And what sort of things do you look at when it comes to qualifications for that individual?
Okay, so Habitat for Humanity is, first of all, we're affiliated in Columbus. So every affiliate has their own set of guidelines and processes and programs under the umbrella of Habitat International. But in Columbus, we've been here 11 years, and we have built 1 or 2 houses a year, and we do that through an application period to qualify. And there's three parameters that every future homeowner has to fall under. They have to qualify financially. So the HUD guidelines by the federal government is what we go by.
Okay.
And those are prorated based on number of people in the family. You know, kind of thing, free and reduced lunch kind of thing. So you are low income, but they have to be low income and still have the ability to pay.
Okay.
So because a Habitat house isn't free. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They buy their house in a 30-year mortgage. The only difference is between you and I and them is that their mortgage is interest-free for the 30 years. That's the difference.
Oh, it is. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 30-year mortgage, and it is interest-free. And the mortgage basically is the cost of construction without the labor charges. That's how we make it affordable.
Wow. And the interest.
Right.
Yeah. The interest, I swear, makes a majority of your payment, especially for the first 10 years.
Right.
That's huge.
So it's a really good deal, especially in a housing market like Columbus,
Yes.
where where you're the expert. And then we also do put a second deed of trust on the house, and that is the difference between the price that they paid for it and the value of it, the appraised value of it.
Okay.
So that protects the community's interest. So it can't, because I think last year's house we finished like at 130-ish, which is just crazy. Usually we're like at 90.
Yeah.
So we had like $40,000 to $50,000 more in charges last year, and we didn't buy anything different.
Just the cost of material.
Yeah. So the board we kind of had to subsidize last year's house, which is the first time we've ever done that. And but that second deed of trust, then our house is appraised like at 145-ish right now. So that second deed of trust covers that. So it can't just be flipped, because our investors, we have to protect ourselves and them, because they're donating their money to our program. And then so ability to pay and willingness to partner is the third parameter that they fall under. Not everybody is willing for me to go around and talk on TV about their life, because some of these, I just can't believe some of the houses these people live in Columbus. It's just awful that our children are growing up in places that have possums under their couch and mold in their, anyway. So that's a whole nother podcast, right? But so they have to be willing to partner, which also includes the sweat equity. So at our affiliate, a single parent has to put in 200 hours of their own personal time to build their own home alongside the volunteers. If they're a married couple, which we have not had yet in Columbus, we've had a few apply, but they have to do 400 hours, so 200 each.
Yep, absolutely. So basically, and then where do they finance their funds through?
Well, at this point, we have been our own bank at this time.
Okay.
If we run out of funds or something, we would have to sell those mortgages at a loss to our pool of revenue, to raise our pool of revenue.
So basically, the people will purchase the property at $130,000 interest free on a 30-year mortgage. So their payments, and then obviously they would still have to pay taxes and insurance.
Yeah, we do escrow it because, again, that's part of our protection of our community.
Yeah. Okay. So then you say you file a second deed of trust. Now, is that a lien against the property then as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and actually that second deed of trust after 15 years is 100% forgiven.
Okay.
So if they live in the house for 15 years, they only have to pay back the first mortgage.
Okay. So, but if they sell it before then they have to pay that difference. Okay. And is that interest free as well then? That second part?
Yeah, that just sits there.
Okay.
That just sits there until one of the two things happen. Either they move or they... But our oldest house sold this year. The owner had to move closer to family who were aging. And so we've never, everybody's always had to pay back that second deed of trust. So, and they have still come out ahead. They've still come out, they've reached their goal. They are financially independent and they have enough to purchase another home.
Oh, I imagine.
To continue home ownership.
That interest free. That's the amazing part. Seriously. Okay. So then obviously qualification, how many applications do you probably get every year?
Well, it's different every year. Our goal, we would really like 20 in the 20 range. This year our pool was very small and we don't know why. We don't know. This is where we're at in our, just our year of moving, just our what we do every year. So we're evaluating why our pool of applicants was so small this year. If it was the timing of our orientation, our manufacturing places in town have had considerable salary increases this year. I don't know if you've noticed that. So do we not qualify like we used to?
Yeah.
We're evaluating all of that right now. Our family selection committee is deciding how to increase that pool. But even in the slimmer picking years like this year, we've never had a problem finding somebody who qualifies and is
truly needs
the right kind of person we need.
Yeah. I'm sure that's probably a little hard going through those applications and making that decision. I mean, do you feel a lot of pressure almost? Do you get people who are upset when they don't get chosen?
Well, I'm not. I don't make the decision as the executive director. That comes from the committee, and then the committee gives it to the board. And I don't know that, there's a number of ladies who, or not just ladies, but a number on the committee who do the home visits. I don't know how they can do it. and it just breaks my heart. This year, I had a family at the orientation who I was just chatting with. I'm only there as support. I don't even run the orientation or anything. And she said her disabled son is living in their trailer, but he needs so much room for his needs that they have another child who lives in the shed that they've just butted up against the trailer. I know. And I thought, how can we let that happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. And they were too poor to even qualify for a Habitat house.
Oh my gosh.
But we have a child in this town who lives and in my mind, it's one of those little metal sheds, with the pull apart doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, Maria and Moses, who got our house last year, they lived in a trailer just, on 48th Avenue, and it's taped together. We went into that deep freeze last year. Do you remember that? Where it was like, 150 below zero or whatever?
Yeah.
And our board said to me, they're like, Lori, they cannot stay in that house. Offer them a hotel. We will, the board was willing to pay for that out of their own pocket. And I called Maria and I'm like, Maria, her pipes froze, and I'm like, Maria, let us put you up during this deep freeze. The board just cares about you. Even though this isn't a Habitat thing, they're just going to pay for it out. And her response was, no, we'll just stay in our smallest bedroom with all our blankets. I know, right? We don't realize how
fortunate we are.
Yeah. And even here in Columbus, where I wouldn't think things like that happen. Yeah.
But
anyway.
I think the sad part is I don't know if it's necessarily that we let it happen. It's we don't know it's happening.
Well,
and that's kind of the problem too.
Or the people who are here that's okay with them.
Yeah.
Like that it was okay with Maria and Moses to stay like that.
Yeah.
That they are just so grateful to have a home and to be in America that they'll do that.
Yeah. Like they have almost either too much pride or they just don't really see it as a problem because like you said, they're just so fortunate to have even just a roof over their head that they are grateful for that alone. But I mean, in addition to not having water or how cold it was, but
so that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
That's where I can go and share the mission of Habitat with other people, because what we do is we really do change the life. We don't just change the situation. We educate our homeowners on finances, money management, community resources. We're adding a lawn care section. We really want our Habitat homeowners to become productive citizens
and set them up for success, not for failure, just to because it's more than just owning a house and having those payments. It's maintaining it, keeping up with it, and doing all of that. For those who don't qualify, or like the family you said that they didn't qualify because they didn't make enough, which probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but do they have any resources here in Columbus that could help them with anything?
Well, on our family selection committee is Tammy Bickelmeyer with the United Way, and Tammy's job is community resources over at the United Way. So she does have the opportunity to share and maybe help as needed. But again, it's a fine line to, as I understand it, to walk between, what people ask for, what they need, and, how we can't insert ourselves into
Everybody's lives. Yeah.
Which, I probably have a tendency to do so because I'm like, here's a problem, we need to fix it. And they, go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
yeah. I know. Cause I worked in the field for actually mentally ill adults years ago. And there's that fine line between enabling and helping. Because there's a lot of people truly, truly, truly need the help, but usually the people who truly need it have a lot of pride and they don't have the resources and connections to find out what resources are out there. And then there's on the other side, you have people who take advantage of those nonprofit organizations, and it's a very, very hard thing to decide on who you're going to help and how much you're going to help them with, because you don't, like you said, you can't put yourself into their life. Everybody's, let alone, every part of their life. So it is definitely a very, very fine line. I guess so. And you're the executive director at Habitat for Humanity, and you've been there for 4 years, and you're going on your 5th year. Now you've done 6 homes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then, I guess
as my tenure, we've done 6
since you've been there.
Right. Habitat has built 12.
Okay.
11 in Columbus and 1 in Schuyler. We partnered with a community group in Schuyler.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, now do you try to mainly focus on Columbus then?
Our bylaws are within a 2-mile radius of Columbus.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. That's awesome. And do you work with the same contractors, or are they always different?
Oh,
no.
we could not do what we did without the contractors we have. And I don't know, can I mention names?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Give them a shout out.
So
Absolutely.
I cannot, people like John Obrist Plumbing, we cannot do what we do without him. He does our bathrooms, our plumbing every year.
Oh.
And he comes when we, in order for the volunteers to stay on track, we have a 16-week build schedule. If the contractors didn't come when it was, we couldn't continue, staying on track. And then I'd have to reschedule the volunteers. And, when we have a church group or a business who's come to volunteer for the day and we have to say we reschedule, they're not going to come back. I mean, nobody has time for that. And so if our contractors didn't help us, just on our last house, since I have been here now, it's been a pretty consistent group since I've been here for the 4 years. So, John Obrist has done all the plumbing. Eric Spiker has done the electrical. Van Diest has done the heating and air every single time.
Oh my
gosh. We've had a lot of help from the Columbus Home Builders and LV Construction. Last year we were in a bind with our sheeting on our roof, and LV Construction came out. They said, Lori, you need to give us more notice. And I said, I wish I could.
Right.
And they came out and threw that sheeting on so that our roofer, Good Guys Roofing came out and they did the roof completely for free. Everybody, it's hard to turn down a good cause when you're a good person.
Yeah.
And everybody, if everybody would just do their part, just, just tell me. I'll only ask you once every 5 years. But, come on, just do it once now and I won't talk to you again for 5 years or whatever. Everybody does something different.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to staying on track, because actually I use Spiker and Obrist and Van Diest. They're all doing a project of mine, but time frame and timeline, especially when you have other volunteers set up, is so crucial. Because like you said, you have everybody lined up, and then if it doesn't fall into place, or if something does not go right and you have to reschedule, you're not going to have that many people. And then plus you have to try to reschedule everything. It is a nightmare. Obviously a little bit different when you're doing a rehab versus a new construction, but it is very crucial for contractors to stay on that timeline. And I'm sure that's something that you truly appreciate, not only their time, but, being dedicated to the time frame.
Right.
And committed.
Right. And not just their time, but financially, none of those people we mentioned charge us full price,
Yeah.
And, so they come when I or the construction manager call. They do a really good job. And if there's a problem, like this year, the toilet had a hole in it. I've never heard of this, but we have a brand new toilet sitting in the house, and she would flush the toilet, and this water would squirt out the side of the bowl and just create this little tiny flood. And Obrist came over and he fixed it. He gave her a new toilet right away.
Yeah.
And so it's preparation, it's the readiness, and it's a follow through that they just provide services for us that I can't do.
Yeah, because material does come malfunctioned, and you don't know that it's malfunctioned
that was a total
until
production issue. Yeah,
absolutely, and you don't know it's malfunctioned until it's been used regularly. And a lot of times, the malfunction may not come up until it's been used 20, 15 times. So they may go through and flush and run everything, but until it actually gets used properly, you don't know if there's an actual malfunction. So we're going to give a shout out to Obrist Plumbing, Spiker Electrical, and then Van Diest. So they've kind of been there throughout the many years that you've been working there. They've been a huge impact for the contractors.
They have given us significant financial and time discounts.
That's awesome.
We have a lot of contractors in town, and they all give us some kind of discount. But those are probably our 3 biggest ones.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, just coming together as a community. I mean, that's what it takes. It takes a village. That's what they say. Especially when you're raising a family or you're raising a kid. It's not just about the parents. It's the entire community and the village. So, well, I truly appreciate you being here, Lori. This has been amazing. And I know Lisa's a big part of Habitat for Humanity. You guys had a big fundraiser for Taste of Columbus this year.
Oh, yes.
That was amazing. Yes. I reaped the benefits on one of those. I won. I'm going with one. I won the dog. She's fantastic. Her and my other dog get along great. She's massive. She's definitely going to be bigger than my other dog. But I was, probably my kids more than I was, but super excited. And I think, how do you feel that the Taste of Columbus went for Habitat for Humanity? I know it was a lot to put together. But
well, those ladies, and now Dawson, I shouldn't say just ladies.
Oh, yeah.
at the chamber, they've got it down to a science.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and they made it fun and enjoyable, and they asked, very little of us, and we did whatever they asked. And but that Taste of Columbus is not successful without our community.
No.
For example, you got that beautiful dog, which, first of all, when I knew about that donation, I was like, yes, how fun is that, right? Because it's so unexpected. And people in the community were like, are you really auctioning off a dog? I'm like, yeah, you should see it. It's adorable. But then, that family, you won that dog, and one of the owners comes up to me and says, we'll donate another one.
Yeah.
And we auctioned 2 dogs off.
Well, they actually offered the dog to the person who was bidding against me. Yeah. And so he was able to get that one. But I talked to the person who raised the dog, and she was very nervous, which I totally understand. But it's a fantastic dog, trained already, had already gone through obedience classes.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Everything.
Nice.
So I didn't know the dog was going to be on the auction, and I was actually sitting at the table, and I saw a puppy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so I ran over there, and I'm petting it, and she's like, yeah, it's going to be going on for auction, here in a little bit. And my husband looks at me, and he's like, no, Shae, you're not doing it. I'm like, well, we'll see. So then they started auctioning it off, and then, I was like, just raised my hand, and he just put his head down.
Well, Shae, you better make up for that at Christmas time. You better get something.
He loves it. So he's actually, it's probably more his dog.
Really?
Yeah, because he's a big hunter.
Oh, perfect.
And so labs are really, really good at that. She fetches, which is amazing. Our other dog is just like, am I supposed to run after that thing? But Jasmine, we kept her name, and she is all over it. So we absolutely love her. She's a great addition to our family. So, and I told my husband, I'm like, this is supporting the community.
That's right.
It's not because I wanted the dog. I'm supporting the community and a good cause. So it worked out great.
Yes.
It was a great.
And if people would not purchase dogs at auctions or donate them, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, when I sit at home and I think, how can people keep giving? We think about how we need to raise our funds for Habitat, and Lisa is our fundraising chairman, and we throw out ideas, and I'm like, we can't ask our community to do that too. They are just bombarded all the time between the schools and our nonprofit organizations, and we just, but yet we do, and yet they come through, and
well, and truly there is more money in the community than what we all kind of know. And when people can even just give a little bit, it makes a huge difference. It helps this community to keep going and to keep surviving and growing. Columbus is growing substantially. So without these nonprofit organizations and people like you and volunteers, we can't make that happen, and it's so vital to a thriving community to be able to have those resources. So I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's an amazing thing that you guys do.
I don't do anything.
And well, no, you do. You do. You put a lot of time and dedication and thought, and it's always on the top of your mind. So even though you may feel like you're not physically doing something, you still need people to overlook the entire process to help it go smoothly. Like if you're setting up contractors and volunteers, that alone is a huge commitment, and making sure that they're going there and showing up, because you can set things up, but if they're not showing up, it's all going to crumble and fall apart. So without people like you and other volunteers in the community, it's not possible at all. So we truly appreciate that, and I truly appreciate you coming in and talking to me about it. So if somebody is interested in either volunteering or being part of the Habitat for Humanity, or even applying for a house, where would they need to go?
Well, our Habitat for Humanity of Columbus website has everything, all the information to contact, the applications. When we have an orientation session, that information is up there. So that's the easiest way. They can always call the Habitat office. It's in the phone book, or,
what is your website?
www.hfhcolumbusne.org.
Okay. Well, maybe add a link into the bio or description of it so people can check that out. So.
And the email address is on there for the office, and the phone number.
And what is the email? In case people who are listening to this.
info at hfhcolumbusne.org.
Okay.
So almost the same.
Perfect. Perfect.
And, we love volunteer time. We love donations. There's so many ways to donate to Habitat besides money. When you call me up and say I have a fridge, we can't use that in our house, but we do resell it on classifieds. We have a garage, so we have the holding area if you need to get it out of your house.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And so-
yeah, most people don't know that. So you don't necessarily use those for the homes, but you can use it to resell to raise funds to be able to buy a new one. Okay, so that's good to know.
Right, and it's not a lot, but it adds up. This month we had an appliance package that brought $1,000 into our, into our home building program. So
Yeah, definitely adds up. If
Yep.
if everybody knew that, instead of just tossing or getting rid of them, you could probably add so much more than what you do now. So that's, I mean, yeah, like you said, it may not be a lot per item, but it definitely adds up over time.
So our houses cost about $82 per, except for last year, which is an anomaly. About $82 per square foot.
Okay.
And so I always, when I sell something, I'm like, can you give us $82 and pay for 1 square foot of the house?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Good way to put it. Yeah, $82 a square foot. That's pretty cheap. That's really
Right?
cheap.
Isn't
I mean,
it?
really, yeah, it's amazing.
What do you know? What off the top of your head? What the Columbus square foot?
Well, if you're doing a new build, you're looking at anywhere from, especially with a finished basement, probably 225 to 250
Okay.
square foot. Typically, so that's less than half on what you guys are able to do. So, but yeah, I mean, last year was 250. This year too, probably about that. I would say prior to that, it was closer to 200. But
Okay.
I mean, because cost of material has gone
All right.
up.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the material, but that's kind of average for a new build. So, but no, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah,
And if
thank
anybody is
you.
interested, please check out the website, send them an email, whether you want to volunteer, donate appliances, whatever it is. They'd be happy to take any donations. So we'll check that out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you.